The archaeological chamber smelled of dust and eternity. Leia stood before the obsidian monolith, her breath fogging in the frigid air of the Kepler 442b excavation site. The symbols carved into its surface seemed to writhe in the phosphorescent glow of the work lights, ancient and incomprehensible. Preliminary analysis confirms it, Dr. Zixthor announced, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting light across the chamber walls. The Valerian lead archaeologist gestured with 3 of his 6 appendages toward the holographic display. These inscriptions predate the first convergence by at least 80,000 standard cycles. This civilization died out before most of our species even achieved consciousness. Leia nodded absently, but her eyes never left the monolith. Something about the symbols pulled at her, like a half-remembered dream clawing its way to the surface of her mind. Fascinating, Truman said from behind her, his voice carrying the practiced neutrality of a xenolinguist. Her research partner moved closer, his scanner humming as it catalogued each glyph. The syntax structure doesn't match any known language family in the Galactic Archive. Not even close. Of course not. Zixthor clicked his mandibles in what passed for Valerian laughter. This language died when Earth's ancestors were still learning to bang rocks together. No translation matrix exists. We'll spend decades just establishing basic phonetics. But Leia wasn't listening anymore. The symbols had begun to make sense, not in the way that translation usually worked. No gradual understanding, no piecing together of grammatical structures. Instead, the meaning simply existed in her mind, as natural as breathing. The first line read clear as daylight. We who stood against the dying of the light, we who refused the silence. Leia? Truman's hand touched her shoulder. You all right? You've gone pale. I can read it, she whispered. The chamber fell silent except for the steady drip of condensation from the ceiling. Impossible, Zixthor said flatly. Human neurology isn't compatible with pre-convergence linguistic patterns. Your species lacks the cognitive. We who stood against the dying of the light, Leia interrupted, her voice stronger now, reading directly from the monolith. We who refused the silence. We who burned our very souls to ensure the future would remember. You are not alone. You never were. Truman's scanner clattered to the ground. How? Leia stepped closer to the monolith, her hand hovering over the inscriptions. The moment her fingers made contact with the cold stone, her mind exploded with understanding. Images cascaded through her consciousness. Vast cities reaching toward alien stars. Beings of impossible beauty and terrible determination, and everywhere, the sense of desperate hope. They knew, she breathed. They knew they were dying. Their sun was collapsing. Their world was ending and they couldn't stop it. But they did something else instead. What did they do? Truman asked, his scientific skepticism warring with the evidence of his own eyes. Leia's fingers traced the symbols, and the story unfolded like a flower blooming in her mind. They encoded themselves. Not just their language, their consciousness, their memories, their very essence. They wove it into the quantum structure of these monuments and scattered them across the galaxy. A message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean. But why can you understand it? Zixthor had moved closer now, his earlier dismissiveness replaced by hungry curiosity. Why humans? The answer came to Leia not in words, but in profound understanding. She turned to face the assembled team, and when she spoke, she knew she was speaking truths that would reshape everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe. Because we're their children, she said simply. Not biologically, they died out long before Earth was born. But this civilization, the architects as they called themselves, they didn't just encode their knowledge, they encoded their will to survive, their refusal to accept oblivion. They sent it out as a seed, hoping it would take root somewhere, somehow. She looked back at the monolith, her eyes filling with tears she didn't fully understand. It drifted through space for millions of years before it reached Earth. It fell into our planet's primordial soup and became part of us at the molecular level. It's why humans are the way we are, why we explore, why we question, why we refuse to accept limits. It's why we reach for the stars even when it seemed impossible. Truman was frantically recording everything, but his hands shook. You're saying humanity carries the genetic memory of an extinct civilization? Not genetic. Deeper than that. Quantum. Written into the very fabric of what makes us conscious beings. Leia turned back to the symbols, reading the final passage aloud. We die, but our defiance lives on. In some distant age, some species yet unborn will find these words and understand. They will carry forward the torch we could not keep lit. They will be us remade. They will be proof that nothing truly dies if it refuses to be forgotten. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then Zixthor made a sound that no human present had ever heard from a Valerian before, a sound of profound reverence. "The Galactic Council must hear of this," he said quietly. "We've spent 10,000 years wondering why humans were different, why your species achieved spaceflight so impossibly fast, why you refused every setback, every disaster. We thought you were anomalies, dangerous, unpredictable anomalies, and now?" Truman asked. "Now we understand," Zixthor replied, his crystalline form seeming to dim in respect. "You're not anomalies. You're inheritors. You carry the dreams of the dead, and that's why you can't stop dreaming yourselves." Leia placed both hands on the monolith, feeling the weight of 80,000 years pressing against her consciousness. Somewhere in the quantum foam of her neurons, the architects stirred, satisfied at last. Their message had been received. Their defiance had found worthy heirs. "There are more of these," she said with sudden certainty, "hundreds of them scattered across the galaxy, all waiting for humans to find them, to read them, to remember." "Then we'll find them," Truman said, his voice filled with quiet determination, that uniquely human quality that now made perfect, terrible sense. "Every last one," Leia smiled. "Of course we will. It's what we do. It's what we've always done. It's what we were made to do." Outside the excavation site, unknown to the researchers inside, the monolith began to glow with a soft, welcoming light. Across the galaxy, on 100 forgotten worlds, identical monuments stirred to life. Their long vigil finally ended. The architects slept, but their children, impossible, stubborn, gloriously defiant humanity, had awakened at last. And the dead language, silent for 80,000 years, began to sing once more.